right, guys, how we doing? Happy Monday. Here we are, the 16th of December, and we open up the poll to all asset classes today, and Cosmos squeaked out the win here. So I don't think we've looked at this before, come to think of it. So Atom USDT. Now, if you're not familiar with the project, always good to, if you're considering something like this, get some insight into what you're buying, right, or selling, as the case may be. So, you guys know I like this site, CoinCheckup here. So I get kind of a good snapshot here. So here's the overview. It's fairly well with their algo scoring that they use here. Number 16 on their scale. It's a strong buy in terms of momentum, but lots of news here. I mean, it's always a good place to get some insight. What's their purpose, right? What are they all about? Where do they trade? And what does the volume look like? So I will always come over here because I want to see where the volume is, particularly if we're looking at doing some analysis on it. So you can see here a pretty big disparity here. So buy box to Ethereum is interesting. That's where the volume is here, but then buy box again, but then Binance here to the dollar tether. So we can look at that, and that's close, almost half the volume here is to the dollar tether on Binance. So let's go look at it over on Binance. Now this is an example where the Elliott Wave can be helpful here. So we're looking at this chop, and we're getting a series of higher highs and higher lows, but the structure of it is, well, there's a few things going on here. So per an Elliott count, if this is going to play as if we do have a good low here, all right, which would be the thinking, all right, we've got a candidate for a diagonal to get us started with a one wave. So we don't have a lot of history here, but so just working with the low that we have. So coming off of this now, here this love it or hate it, right? This can be helpful to us with regards to applying some Elliott Wave here. So if this is going to play as a diagonal, and we're going to get our fifth up here, well, there's there are guidelines / rules that you could apply here that might give you some insight into whether or not this is realistic and whether or not we're going to hold here as a one wave. Now we can, of course, see, yes, indeed, higher highs, higher lows, like all the way along, but we're doing it in the format of threes. So ABC, ABC, ABC. The correction, interestingly, look how the corrections are almost straight down, right? But when we move forward, we're doing it in threes, and it's right. So there's no surprise here, right? It's technical, right? So here's the 50 to the tick, right? Here's first target, and of course, in a diagonal, we have it again. I think we get second target here. This goes 138. So here's 50 to the tick, third target to the tick, and then we get the last one here. You can see this. It's internal. It's these internal swings, right? So here's where a slight front run Vegas wave catches it perfectly, and then we're to and through that first target. So if this is going to trade as a diagonal, well, we'd be looking as a leading diagonal. We'd want to see the range relationship be to an Elliottician's liking here. So 3 longer than 1. We need 5 to be longer than 1 to really get comfortable with the fact that, or I should say, with the idea that we have a leading diagonal going in. So the structure is all good, but here, so to get that, we need for 5 to be longer than 3. We're going to get it. So I just use this little structure here kind of as a, just as an eye marker, so we don't have to keep this here. So at this point here, well, we doesn't necessarily have to be here. It could be out here. But if we're going to stay on this trajectory here, it would be ideal to tag this here. Pull it over. We'll get a little closer here. Be ideal to tag this here so we could really plant the C here. Right now, nothing says it has to stop there. Right, it's not that it must hit that in reverse. I mean, we could easily pop higher, but then we could comfortably say, okay, I got a leading diagonal. There's a 1. Now we'd be mindful of this pivot here, as these are very deep retracements. But as I often remind you, in a diagonal, we want to look for something technical between start of the 1, pivot of the 4. Now we go very deep here. We go all the way. Well, considering how deep the 2 is, well, we do the same thing with the 4. We go all the way to the 707, breaking the golden zone. All right, if I pull this back, oh, pardon me, wrong one. All right, so here's my low here for my 2. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 707. Now, can I get up and get that here? Now, this would be mighty close, but it wouldn't be ideal because we want that 5. So you note here, if I do it again, if the length of 3 from the 4 are mighty close. right? So how much a purist are you, right? So if we come up here and tag the algo target here, it's iffy, right? So it'd be questionable as to whether or not you'd comfortably plant the C there, assuming we pivot there. Again, nothing says we must pivot there. And then we start an ABC coming down here. So if that's the kind of thing we'd be looking for, with the implication being we had a leading diagonal into a 1, and the expectation would be now we can work from that pivot and anticipate the next opportunity to be a buyer down here. So until we get there, it's, we're fighting a few things here. So let me clear this up just a little bit here, just to make this a little easier to spot. Okay, so, well, of course, working from the top here, I mean, we've essentially got a double top as we come down here. So, we're just getting to the 50. It's, this is slightly higher. Really the same result here. There's no insight here either way. Again, we're looking out. Note where that 100% equaling the length of the third would come in. All right, so you can kind of map the thing out and go, oh, all right, this kind of makes sense here, right? So if this is just retracing before there's another kick up, if we get up to this level, it would, oh god damn it, this trading view would make perfect sense, right? You can just kind of see it. Right, likely, right? We know there'll be software to resist it. Again, doesn't mean we can't just blow right through it, but for this to do something along these lines, right? We come down into this zone. There's your next. That's the big play. So one thought is what I would do, because this is still not definitive. I would wait and see. Okay, can I lock in on this if I get this distance here? If I do, then the next opportunity to be a buyer down here is very attractive because I have confidence in what I've got here. All right, so I know, right? So you're thinking, okay, we're at 4.25. What are we looking for up here? 5. So there's maybe 70 cents of upside there. That's not good enough for me. I'd wait. Right? So this is me. To have at it if you like. All right, so I don't think there's enough risk reward, that there's not enough upside there, as opposed to if I can lock this in as my 1. Right, if this is the 1 and I can get a 2 here, and we're going 3, 4, 5, and we'll go up to here. Give me a sec here. All right, so if I can lock in on that, then the risk reward trading into the 2 to the 3 is substantially better. Right? I mean, just easy to spot that. Right now, of course, we're gonna need an alt season here of some sort for this to get realized. All right, and this is certainly a popular project and got a lot of support across the alt space, crypto space. Right, a lot of people are very excited about this project here, and it certainly has great potential. But right now, how do you trade it? There's a few other things in here that are worth noting here. So, right, so I have the trend lines here to give us the shaping of the diagonal, but I certainly would want to look for other confluence if I can. So note here, if I go, let's get this back to original here. So I'm too steep. So I have a couple of choices. Either I can work with those initial 3 pivots and then move to a modifier. Well, now I'd have to have 2 and 3, right? So it's too steep. Or I use a different pivot. So note if I come over to this pivot right here, get right on it. Let's make sure I'm right on all these bad boys. Okay, pretty good there. Pretty good there. Let's get you tightened up. It's worth doing this to get these dialed in so you get the precision of it. Yeah, so that's absolutely perfect there. Okay, let me back it out. All right, so note what we get there. We've literally just tagged it, right? When you really tighten it down. So this, from swing high, right? Look what we get here, right? So yes, that's the 707, so it's not a perfect golden. We'll call it a platinum, right? So we front run the 707. We've just hit the median line, right? So boom, that is realized. So you can kind of see if this is going to come back again, and we're going to hold here any of this structure, whether it's the wave 1 pivot high. Not that that's relevant per se to the Elliott count, but it's just some structure that certainly could come into play. So if we're gonna come up here and, you know, well, pardon me, if we're gonna finish this, if this is 1, 2, or so, we'd be looking for, oh, so we could get another kick up here to tag that. Boy, you would have just a nice cluster of confluence here that would suggest great opportunity. Now, you know, so up to the individual as to whether or not you want to jump on that for the opportunity to be a seller. I would be patiently waiting for the opportunity to be the buyer. But that's me, right? That's what I would be looking for. Much bigger upside there and much better risk reward here on the retrace should we get it. Now I know that's getting crowded here, so let's get that off. Get that off. All right, so we can kind of make sense of it more. So if this is going to play as my 2 here, well, then, of course, I'd have a whole new set of median lines to draw. So right now, I'm looking for this to come back up. That would give me just perfect confluence up there. It completes the diagonal. Give me that ABC down into my buy zone, and we're all over that. All right, then you'd have this as a target up here, right? So the risk reward just infinitely better. You can see, so I know it's frustrating, right? You want to... All right, we're all getting a little frustrated by cryptos just being so dormant, right? So if we're going to hold something along those lines, you might even give it the other side of the 707, right? Since we saw it was responsive there. So there's 10 to 1, right? So rather than screw around with trying to get this little pop here, I'll wait, right? And so I'm just much more confident in what I'm doing here. Here, maybe it could be, right? But lock me in here. I know I've got a good candidate here for a leading diagonal, and then I'm just patiently waiting for that, right? A lot of trading is waiting, right? Waiting for a target to get hit, waiting for the trade to set up, right? The impatience, right? Particularly when, you know, we're 2-year bear market here, and even the slightest little signs of just green shoots, and we're tempted to want to jump on it. Right? You need these things to confirm. It's worth waiting. So what are we looking at here? Maybe you wait a month for that to come. Is it 10 to 1? But potential, right? So it's just potential, right? But the setup for a 10 to 1 trade, that's I'll wait a month for that. All right, guys, there's a few things to chew on. Okay, I'm going to try and get a couple more today, but that'll hold you over for a bit there. Okay.